I spent the last 6 months studying abroad in Brisbane, Australia. Of course, studying abroad requires little actual studying and a lot of traveling. In June, one of my housemates and I decided to spend a week in Sydney since our exams were over sooner than we had anticipated. Our flights back to Brisbane are separate flights because his was at noon and way more expensive than my flight, which was at 6 a.m. I quickly discovered mine was much cheaper because it was harder to get to the airport at that hour. I needed to get to the airport by 5 to check in, and the only way to do so, besides a cab, which is super expensive, would be to catch the 4 a.m. train from the museum station. I decided my best option would be to leave my hostel around midnight, when people are still out and about partying and whatnot, as opposed to leaving at a more dodgy hour like 3, and I would spend a few hours at the train station where I assumed I would be safe. I left my hostel by myself at midnight. It was freezing cold, as well as pouring down rain. My smartphone from home was broken, and my new one had yet to arrive, so all I had was my cheap prepaid Australian phone. This meant no GPS, so I had to rely on a literal map for directions. As soon as I step outside of my hostel, my map becomes pretty much drenched by the rain. I'm clearly lost, trying to examine it and pacing around outside of my hostel. A man who doesn't look too much older than myself, I am 20, approaches me. He is wearing a work uniform, a hat and shirt for a pizza place. He asks me if I'm looking for something and tells me I look lost, and I tell him that I'm looking for the museum station. He points into the distance. Well, it's over that way, but if you want, I can drive you. I'm a pizza delivery driver, and I'm working right now, but I'll pass by the museum station anyways. I hesitate for a second, but I decide it might be more reliable than me getting lost in the rain and missing my flight and everything. Plus, since I know where he works from his uniform, I decide he's trustworthy. I ask him his name and where he works before I accept his offer. I learn his name and that he's 24 years old, from Nepal, and works at some fancy place in King's Cross, Sydney, that I've since forgotten the name of. I accept his offer and follow him to his car. In the passenger seat is one of those pizza box carrying cases, and the car smells of pizza, so I trust the fact that he's working. We're making small talk while he drives around. I tell him my flight to Brisbane is at 6, and the train is at 4. He tells me that the train station is not a safe place to wait by myself at those hours, and that if I'd be willing to wait until he finishes his shift, he'll drive me all the way to the airport. The airport is a little ways out of the city. I gratefully accept, but I have to wait until about 1:30. The car is warm, and I'm grateful for the guy's favor, so I don't mind. I just sit in his car while he drives back and forth between the pizza place and different residences, delivering pizzas. Finally, his shift is over, so he drives us back to the pizza place to clock out or whatever. He comes back to the car, and he brings me a huge, delicious-looking and smelling pizza for free, and a bottle of Coke. "This is for you. If you want water or a jacket or anything, I can give you that. Just let me know," he tells me. I thank him and start eating the pizza while he begins to drive to the airport. It's all going fine and well until suddenly it does a total 180. "How long have you been in Sydney?" he asks. "A week." "Well, have you had sex with anyone in Sydney?" he asks. I am so alarmed that I'm speechless. "You should," he continues, "because then you'll remember the city forever." "No, I'm okay with buying souvenirs and taking pictures of the landscape." I try to keep it casual. "Do you have a boyfriend?" he asks me. "No," I say. I realize this was dumb and I should have probably said yes. But oh well, hindsight is 20/20. "You need a hot partner with a hot body to keep you warm in this weather. You're cute, so I bet you have a hot body under those clothes," he tells me. I'm a pretty awkward person and I have no idea what to say. So instead, I just eat my pizza, so I have an excuse not to talk. Then he puts his hand on the back of my head and starts massaging my hair. I eat my pizza and don't react. His hand moves to my face and begins tracing the line of my jaw as I chew my pizza. And then his fingers move to my lips, which he traces as well, and sticks his finger in my mouth as I try to chew my pizza. "I'm eating the pizza you got me," I say. So he withdraws his hand. Then there's a red light, and he stops, as you do. When he stops, he turns to me and demands, "Kiss me." "I'm eating," I say, with a full mouth of pizza. "I'll wait," he says. So obviously I take as long as possible to chew my food. The light turns green again, so he turns his attention back to driving. On the way to the airport, there are always heaps of signs pointing to the airport. So I watch the signs, waiting for the moment when there is a fork in the road. Airport this way, middle of nowhere Australia that way. But he's following all of the airport signs. I guess it's obvious that I'm watching the signs because he says, "What, you don't trust me?" I can't say no, obviously, because I'm in his car and stuff. So I tell him of course I trust him. "It's nowhere near 5. Would you rather come to my house and wait there so you don't have to wait alone at the airport?" he asks. I tell him no thanks. I don't want to risk missing my flight. He keeps asking and telling me he will keep me warm there, and I keep saying no. Finally, we get to the airport domestic terminal. It's about 2 a.m. He pulls up to let me out, and as I'm gathering my bags, he slams his arm across my chest. "Wait." "I want you to kiss me," he says. I say no thank you. Then he proceeds to beg me more and more to come to his house. I keep saying no with the excuse that I don't want to miss my flight. Then he offers instead that we can pull his car over up the road from the airport and wait inside there, and he said he would even let me take a nap. I tell him no again. Finally, I decide to bargain with him, and I say I'll give him my number so if he's ever in Brisbane, we will hang out. Of course, I won't do that, but I have to bargain my way out of this situation somehow because he won't listen to my constant no's. I gave him the number to my Australian phone, and he says he'll text me his name so I'll have his number too. He typed it out, and I guess my phone was on silent because he said, "I didn't hear your phone ring. Show it to me so I know you got the text." Well, I actually gave him the right number, so I show him the text and he tells me bye, and that he looks forward to seeing me in Brisbane. I gather my things and get out of the car, reluctant to finally be at the airport. The guy drives away, but he stops at the curb and is just sitting there, watching me. No matter, I think. I'll be safe inside the airport. The airport has all of its lights on and everything seems to be running, but I go to open the door and it's locked. I check a nearby sign. The airport opens at 4 a.m. It's only just past 2 now. This guy is watching me from the curb and there's no one else around. Panicking, I walk the opposite way. Thankfully, I see a man who is also clearly waiting to get into the airport as well, since he has his bags and whatnot. I tell him about the creeper and ask if I can sit with him and wait for the airport to open. He turns out to be a very nice, older Australian guy, and he tells me about his girlfriend that is going to meet him at the airport at 6, and about the new boat they just recently bought for their home at the Gold Coast. He has a bottle of ginger wine, and he suggests that we split it, and we watch a documentary about Vikings on his iPad while we drink the ginger wine in the cold and wait for the airport to open. The entire time, the pizza guy was parked at the curb, watching, until 4 a.m. when people started arriving and the airport opened, when he finally drove away. Over the next few days, I got texts from him saying that he misses me, and that it's lovely meeting me, and all his texts were signed Kisses. I never replied. I even got a few calls from him that I left unanswered. I'm back home in America now, and have gotten rid of my Australian cell phone, so I haven't heard from Pizza Delivery Man anymore. Pizza delivery guy, let's not meet again.